Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Iron Age Marketing. I am Nicky P, here as always. My guest today is Mr. Brian Baugh. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. How off am I?
It's pronounced Baugh, actually. It's a German last name, yeah.
Okay. So, why don't we start out, for people who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I am the creator of the comic book series Wulf And Batsy. It's the continuing adventures of a ferocious werewolf and a cute female vampire who are wandering the earth, searching for a place to call home, but everywhere they go, they end up eating people and getting run out of town. It's not easy to be a monster. So that's the thing I'm mostly known for. By day, I work as a storyboard artist in TV animation, and by night, I draw horror comics.
All right. I'm curious. So, I get excited when I get to talk about people. And full disclosure, I'm a big fan of Wulf and Batsy, so that's why Brian is here, folks. What got you down the horror path? Like, it's not a path for everybody. It's about the nichest of niche markets. So I'm always kind of curious about that thing that turns anyone down that way.
Well, it's funny. I honestly don't remember a time when I wasn't interested in monsters.
Always a creepy guy.
It just goes so far back into my childhood. I don't even remember anything else as far as a main interest. It's almost like I almost want to say like it's not that I chose horror. It's almost like horror chose me because it's always been there. Uh, the story I always tell is when I was a little kid. My dad would be watching the old black and white monster movies on TV, or Godzilla, or whatever, King Kong, Wolfman, Frankenstein, all the good old ones. And, he'd say, come on, watch this with me, and I'd just out of curiosity watch it with him. And he would be really good about explaining, how they did the Wolfman? It's just a guy with makeup on his face. You know how they made King Kong? It's just a little animated puppet. And then he even bought me like books that had like the behind the scenes secrets uh, with pictures of the movie and pictures of the guys working the King Kong puppet, or pictures of Jack Pierce putting the Wolfman makeup on Lon Chaney Jr., things like that. So from a very early age, I had a fascination with monsters and also an understanding of the difference between fantasy and reality. So it never scared me. I understood it was pretend. So it never felt morally wrong to me or scary or anything I had to. I don't know. It was cool.
Well, I always tell people, it's like there's nothing on earth that scares me other than like going insane. Like that terrifies me. that line between reality and fiction actually starting to blur is the thing that like makes me get weirded out.
Yeah, sure.
Ooh. Right on. And I'm curious, was your dad, obviously, if that's where you got exposed, was he a horror movie kind of guy, or is it just, that's the thing that sticks with you from childhood?
Well, he was a movie fan, I think. I mean, he's an interesting character because he's a businessman type. He was a computer programmer in the early 80s before computers were everywhere. Um, he worked on the military base, and not the kind of person I normally would think of as a monster movie fan, but he just liked movies. And when I took to the monster movies, and being a little kid, I suppose he said, let's watch more of those. So it was something we kind of bonded over. And, well into like junior high, like if a big horror movie came out, whether it was Nightmare on Elm Street or Fright Night or whatever, he'd say, let's go see that one. And so me and my dad, so I saw a lot of those great 80s horror movies in the theater with my dad, because he'd just say, let's go see the latest cool one that came out.
It's funny you mentioned Fright Night, because my actual first exposure to Fright Night was in a comic book. It was some adaptation that they did. It was like a back vignette in some comic I was reading, and I'm like, oh, that looks kind of cool. And I later found out that it was a movie. It's just always the whole thing always interests me. It's like what people find interesting.